Bandidos, the Division 2 Year 5 Season 1 brought the new Cavalier Gear Set, and it sucks. Well, does it? That's the question in everyone's mind, and that's what we're going to get to the bottom of today. We will explore all of what Cavalier offers to the most common PvE game modes, where the vast majority of the players spend their time. Hit like if unique and effective builds rock your world. Comment Cavalier to support the channel.
Konnichiwa.
Right on schedule.
Hey Bandidos, I just want to say that if you believe the Cavalier set needs to be changed, or if you think it is perfect right where it is, we need to hear your voice. Please provide your thoughts and ideas in the comments and hit like to help elevate this video for the devs to take notice. Thank you for helping the community in this regard. This is the new Cavalier Gear Set. It comes with armor cores equipped by default. When running 2 pieces, you get 30% hazard protection. 3 pieces gives you 40% repair skills, and 4 pieces unlocks the set bonus called charge. For every second you are out of cover, you will get 5% reduced damage from skills. The chest talent overcharging pushes the max damage protection to 70%. The backpack increases the effect rate from 5 to 10% per second. So if you run both the chest and back, it takes 7 seconds to max out. Without, it will take 10 seconds. When you reach max, it will run for 10 seconds, then reset to 0, and you will automatically resume charging if out of cover. One of the main differentiators of this gear set is the second part of the 4-piece talent. Charged. When fully charged, you're immune to movement speed debuffs and share your skill damage immunities and hazard protection to your allies for 10 seconds. When I stand in front of an NPC like this turret in Heroic, many times the skill won't shoot me at all. That means this set is causing a decrease in threat that translates to 100% immunity to skill damage, simply because they're not shooting at you. Notice, the NPC controlling the skill still maintains his default behavior against my threat level. That's because he's not a skill. Threat doesn't seem to be a perfect system though, so be careful how you rely on this. And when it actually shoots at me, the resistance is actually pretty good. But this is solo heroic. Why does that matter? NPC damage scales with difficulty, and like this fella here shows, it also scales with every team member you add to a group. And the more members you add to your group, the more aggressive NPCs are to your base threat level. In Legendary, tanks are skills and almost always shoot at me immediately, even when I'm wearing the Cavalier Gear Set. Regardless of whatever my immunity against skills is, enemy skills are the minority of incoming damage, and as soon as I start taking damage from NPCs, the build set simply collapses on itself, and I have to be out of cover. The 4-piece concept of this set is built on being out of cover full time. Okay, you're gonna want to listen to this part closely. It's a 4-piece Cavalier set killer. Hey Bandidos, the community we have built together wouldn't have been possible without you. So as a thank you for supporting my channel and the community, I'm bringing you the hookup on member perks, including even more Division 2 content and the celebrated gaming music playlists. If you're not part of Tux's Players Club, click the join button below. This resistance provided by the 4-piece gear set diminishes in value by difficulty, and that is further multiplied by the addition of team members to the content. That's a little ironic because it's a team-based gear set. Not too long ago, this agent tested NPC damage scaling from one difficulty to the next and charted it for the community. I advise you to take a look at this. He was also able to conclude that NPC damage scales per group member added at the same rate NPC HP scales as well. And in 4-man heroic, it is very aggressive. And the addition of your team members doesn't return any benefits to the Cavalier set user. Cavalier builds lack reasonable damage, and the team buffs aren't going to cure that. The only team builds that buff the Cavalier builds will be a Vanguard tank build and a strong healer build. But adding one or both of these builds would significantly lower the team's overall damage output and make content clearing horrifically slow. Each of the benefits from the tank build and the healer build would also add more value to the team than Cavalier. And if one was to be voted out, it would probably be the Cavalier. Let's talk about resistance. Although Cavalier builds might have a lot of armor, Cavalier builds are not tank builds. On this build, I'm running 6 armor cores for 1.8 million armor. Sounds strong, right? Well, it is when I stand behind the shield, but in Legendary, the shield breaks a lot. It kept breaking over and over. Then the set's resistance shows its true colors. Armor in the Division 2 doesn't stand for much, and it isn't what makes a true tank. It's part of the tank equation, but damage recovery is vital to ensuring you have the armor pool to maintain against the content. The Foundry Bulwark gear set is great at being a tank because it turns a percentage of incoming damage back into heals to you and your shield without a skill and isn't directly related to how much armor you're running. On a set needing to be out of cover, we could sure use some shield repair. Even Heartbreaker is a better tank than Cavalier with all its amazing bonus armor, with values high enough that even the weakest healer is strong enough to maintain your base armor. Cavalier's resistance is selective to a damage minority, scales downward with content and in group, and doesn't have the attributes built in to recover fast enough to stay out of cover full time. But don't be fooled. Selective damage resistance isn't always bad. Protection from elite builds are great, especially in heroic content where elites are the majority, not the minority like skill damage. But you can't share protection from elites, so there's no direct group offering. There are resistance modifiers that aren't selective and stands to benefit your team too. That's bonus armor. Bonus armor can be granted to a team using talents like the Vanguard, Galvanize, and Protector. Bonus armor effectively grants the same if not more resistance or damage over time resistance you can take as Cavalier's charged buff, but bonus armor has applications to all incoming damage, but there's little to mitigate hazards than what Cavalier offers. Let's talk about damage recovery. Cavalier comes with 40% repair skills. Nice, but that's not actually a lot. By adding more recovery attributes to your build, like repair skills, would further diminish your group benefits to hazard protection. You don't have the slots on the gear set build to make both heals and Hasbro meaningful to your team. You will need to choose a direction for the build, and Hasbro is what really makes this set stand out in the long term. If you decide to bolster heals instead, you run into dilemmas. You need strong heals to stay out of cover. Most will choose the fixer drone since it's the easier to use and constant for you while on the move. But now you nerf your team Hasbro benefit to 40%, which isn't a game changer value, and most would just prefer to have bonus armor or heals instead. If you shared your heals using a restorer hive, the group would consume heals too quickly. And since you don't heal as well as the future initiative build, this results in large gaps of time where you wouldn't be able to maintain out of cover. Not being able to get out of cover makes this set pointless. Hazard protection is going to offer your team more unique value in heroic content. In the build I'm running in this legendary mission is loaded with heals, and still the Catharsis does most of the heavy lifting on the build for my recovery. It also removes status effects and provides damage. The fixer drone doesn't help the team. The hive got eaten up too fast, and the chem can be cumbersome to use on allies when you're out of cover fighting for your life. So let's talk about hazard protection. This set has 30% hazard protection to start. Your watch gives 10%. That means you only need 6 attribute slots to get to 100%. There are a few easy ways to do that, with and without Cheska or Y'all gear. Charge gives your Hasbro to your allies for 10 seconds. Every 7 seconds if you're running the backpack and chest. 5 seconds if you're not running the chest. I recommend only running no more than 90% on your build in group mode, as most agents will have the full 10% on their watch to complete the 100% hazard protection. Even more, I'd even say 80% total Hasbro on your build is enough for a total of 90% to your team. This reduces all hazards to almost nothing. Even riot foam doesn't stick long enough to need to break it. Great and heroic, but with Hasbro buff, will you have the heals to personally stay out of cover to gain the stacks? A set like this would shine best for legendary strongholds in group, but legendary doesn't offer much in hazards other than the occasional shock, bleed, and disruption, none of which are persistent enough to warrant Hasbro. And the difficulty and group scaling don't give you the resistance to maintain your stacks to maintain out of cover like a foundry tank, regardless of what heals you have on your build. Let's talk about damage. Well, for one, the gear set doesn't offer any. Another way to mitigate incoming damage is by eliminating it. Like Foundry, the gear set doesn't offer damage, but unlike Foundry, the gear set requires skills to recover. That's going to eat at least one skill that could be used for damage. If you try to power up damage stats, they don't amount to anything. Your time to kill is still long, and you're not tanky enough to handle it. And you lost attribute space for heals, making you recover horribly slow and keeping you out of the fight. When it comes to the 4-piece gear set bonus, it isn't valuable enough in PvE to warrant the build in solo or in group. In heroic, you're better off with bonus armor. In legendary, I'd rather have an Eclipse Protocol build, a bonus armor dishing tank, or a healer on my team. Please note, this conclusion does not include niche builds for raid applications. But what about a 3-piece set build for heals? I'll make this easy on you. It's a bust. I'm using a Ninja Bike backpack to make the point. You will need 2 pieces Cavalier to get the 40% repairs with the added benefit of 30% Hasbro. However, if I ran 1-piece Future Initiative and 1-piece Alps, you get 50% repair with the added 20% benefit of duration. But since Alps is not part of a gear set, you also get 1 more attribute than the 2-piece Cavalier alternative. This extra attribute can be something that supports your healer build, like skill haste or even armor regen. That aside, it's still 50% repairs to Cavalier's 40% repairs, making Cavalier not the most efficient path to a strong team repair or self-healer build. If not heals, skills than maybe Hasbro builds. Yes, this gear set's best application to PvE can be distilled down to a 2-piece hazard protection build. 100% Hasbro builds aren't anything new, but running 2-piece Cavalier does make it easier to get there. If you've been around for a while, then you probably know that it's nothing to get excited about. Hasbro has been undervalued for a long time in this game, not because it's not valuable, but because builds don't have the space for it. Global damage resistance such as bonus armor and recovery such as regen or heals are much more valuable. And when it comes to survivability, having an effective time to kill is the highest priority. Mediocre hazard protection doesn't add much survivability, so most builds with Hasbro look to go all or nothing. When we dedicate so many slots to hazard protection, time to kill takes a serious dive. This might be okay for niche builds, like say a tank build looking to face a hunter with a shield, where everything else, a max Hasbro build isn't worth it. That being said, there are a few exceptions that stand out as strong enough to persist with max Hasbro, and I will be sure to get those build videos out to you as soon as possible. Cavalier's best use case is in the Dark Zone. A few seasons ago, the devs told us there were some PvP game changers in the pipeline. As far as I know, season 1 is what delivered that, but I think PvP is messier than ever now. Besides hacks and glitches that persist, Saint Elmo and its shock ammo has broken the game mode and solo players are now obsolete. That's because you need a team member running Cavalier to stand a chance. To get a full picture, I recommend you watch Lyrical's hilarious viewpoint on the DZ. He goes in there with some of his best all-time tested builds, including the PvP meta, to show how to get wasted by a noob with the Saint Elmo. His point is that build diversity has been smashed in the DZ. Check him out. So yeah, Cavalier doesn't just have a place in PvP, it's basically essential. My recommendations to the devs: the 30% hazard protection attribute needs to be bolstered to no less than 50%. Adding high hazard protection to any build takes too many attribute slots away, making it hard to make a build viable in the heals, tank, or damage department. Standalone hazard protection builds don't add value to the game. Add 20% more repair skills to the 3-piece bonus and 20% incoming repairs as a co-stat. The gear set has nowhere near the resistance or recovery it needs to be viable for the majority of content. Add a bonus armor capability that doesn't require kills and that can be shared with the team. The build is not tanky enough to maintain out of cover without substantial help from attributes, making it less effective at providing Hasbro its most unique application, since skill damage is not that useful outside of the Dark Zone. I also recommend something to aid the shield. We need the shield to stay out of cover in difficult content, and it breaks way too easy. We don't have a way for it to recover faster. Even the Bulwark shield broke very easy with this set. Add a team damage buff modifier to the charging talent. Charging talent needs to be all incoming damage. NPC damage scales with difficulty and with group members, effectively nerfing the set in group play. And skill damage is such a minority damage, it's not adding any value to general PvE content. Lower hazard immunity limits to 90% or less for the game. This is another creative way to make hazard protection more useful in the Division 2 outside of just this build. Let PvP stats be different than PvE stats. Do not nerf PvE applications for PvP gameplay. Bandidos, if you agree with any of this feedback or have other experiences and ideas to share, the community needs to hear what you have to say. Please comment below. If this review was helpful, check out my review on the Descent game mode in this ultimate strategy guide.
Follow me.